Hello, my dears. It's Thursday, first Thursday. And today I wanted to share this picture and talk about a universal thing that happens, grief. It might not be the most popular topic, but it is something that flows through all of our lives. And I wanted to share things that I've found helpful in my process, and I'd love to hear your questions, your answers, things that are helpful to you as well, and just share something that, for whatever reason, I have some theories, we don't talk about all that well as a society in general. Grief. There are some cultures that deal beautifully with grief, and we can talk about that too. But we tend to shy away from things that are uncomfortable, but talking about them and being with them is the only thing that I've found and that anyone I've read or heard has found to actually help. So we'll get to that in a moment. But I wanted to share, in honor of my brother's birthday, let's see, there we go. So I'm not a floating head. In honor of my brother's birthday tomorrow, this is a photo that my dad took when I was probably, what do you think, 4 or 5? And Adam would have been 5 or 6. I mean, 6, 5 or 6. No, 10 or 11. Isn't that so beautiful? There we go. That's better. My dad took this from a boat, and we didn't know. And my brother Adam passed on 17 years ago. Hi, Amir. And it's his birthday tomorrow, and he would be 41. And you might think logically, it's been 17 years. I've done a lot of grieving. I shouldn't really have much more grief to do. But I was meditating this morning and I felt this just this something. I didn't really know what it was, but I felt into it and I was like, what's going on? And then I burst into tears and I went, oh, okay. That's okay. I recognize that around this time of year and often around November, there's Scout, he might join us later, often around November, which is the time that he passed on, I can be more tender than usual. And some things might come up. Like I was on my way up through the Hollywood Hills this morning and I saw this purple truck that was just like his purple truck. And suddenly I was like, ah! You know, not a huge grief thing, but I was like, oh, I don't see that truck very often. You know, it wasn't even the same make, but it was the same color. So I just wanted to say there is no right or wrong grief process. There have been lots of books written about it that may be helpful to you, but your way is going to be completely unique for you, and it is correct. I would say the only way to grieve incorrectly would be to try and not do it. But what can happen when we have a lot of feeling come up or a lot of emotion and we don't know what to do with it and it's uncomfortable is that we can just kind of stuff it down. Or, you know, maybe it's a time you're at work, or maybe you're around your kids and you don't know how to talk to them about it, or maybe it's been 17 years and you think you should be over it by now, or maybe it's completely new and it feels totally overwhelming. But doing what I just did there and just pausing for a moment, taking a breath, feeling for any tension in the body, and just allowing whatever's happening to be okay right now. And to be actually what's happening right now. You know, maybe you were on a great date and it was going really well. And then something came up that reminded you of this thing. And now this is what's happening, is there's a lot of feeling that's come up. So whenever you can, and I would suggest that we almost always can, even if it doesn't seem like it in our logical head, whenever you can, just take a pause moment to check in with what's happening in your body. And just breathe into, okay, this is what's happening. I'm feeling sad. And you might not even know why in that moment. But if you allow yourself to really feel that feeling, you'll probably figure it out. in a moment. You'll go, oh, that. Oh, okay. And even if you don't know, just keep breathing with it for a second. And if you're with other people, you can say, hang on just a second. Or you can say, you know what, I need to use the bathroom for a moment. I'll be right back. Just take a moment for yourself. Maybe you'll feel some uncomfortable feelings in your throat, some tightness in your breath. And even if it keeps tightening, even right now, you can do it right now. Just breathe into it. And you can say, it's okay. It's okay. You can place a hand on your heart. I might say, it's okay, Amy. And then from there, maybe you need to cry for a bit. Maybe you need to be held for a bit. Maybe you need some silence. I would recommend, whenever possible, resisting the urge to go fix it or do something about it right then when it's grief, but to be able to just be with it. Because the brain is going to want to fix it. The spirit, or whatever you want to call that, the soul, the energetic part of you that is energetically not separate from the energetic soup that we all abide in, doesn't recognize separation. That doesn't compute. So some part of you is like, I know I'm not separate from them, but it feels like it to the body. That's like, I want to hug my brother, and my brother's not here right now, and I want to hug him. And it takes longer for the body. And it's not logical for the body. And it might make you laugh sometimes and sob another time and rage another time. And it might not even be along a timeline that is proper or correct. And it might not be appropriate. But what's so funny about this human thing that we do, where we go like, I don't want to feel that, I'm going to keep it until later, is that you will keep it until you decide to feel it. It'll just hang around. It'll show up in little knots in your shoulders, or tightness here, or an avoidance of certain things. But in my experience, and then many that I've read and talked with, if I'm stopping myself from feeling any of the feelings I don't want to feel, I'm also reducing my capacity to feel all those great feelings, the joy, the love. And I see there's like this interesting semantics discussion happening in the chat. Can we just hold off on deciding what words are true and what words are not true? There can be words that are true for you. Soul might be a wonderful word for you. It might not be the word for you. It might be the word for somebody else. Energy might be the word, or the force, or love, or God, or whatever those words are. Can we just allow that there are billions of people who are all going to have different words? And I'm not going to argue with any of you about what words work for you. I honor the words that work for you, just as I honor the words that are different that work for somebody else. Okay. So I was talking about the capacity. When I allow myself to feel, to really just be with what's coming up for me, whatever form that takes, but to really just like go into it and allow it, and wail if I need to wail, and really cry if I need to really cry, and really go into that experience and let it ring out from my body. Let my body have that experience. Then I can release it. It doesn't have to hold on to it anymore. It can be, that part can be done. It really, really can. And that's why there are traditions around the world that will scream and cry and dive into grief hard with everybody, because they recognize, like, let's get it out. Let's get it out. Let's honor that the body is it's gonna need time. It's gonna need some physical experience, because that's part of what it's here for, right? It's here experiencing. So let's do it. And I've had different layers of this, and different layers of, with other experiences in my life that I've needed to grieve. Even things that have seemed trivial to my logical brain. Or, things that I thought, well, I processed that. I did therapy. I did whatever I did, for years, and I should be done with that by now. But if I can notice myself saying the should word, okay. What if it was okay to be feeling these things now? What if all that beautiful work that I did previously is allowing me to recognize that there's a deeper layer here that just wants to be heard and felt? And what if on the other side of that feeling, that layer that's uncomfortable for a moment until it's over, there's a deeper joy and a deeper gratitude and a deeper feeling of connection? And in my experience, that is always the case. Always. So, these are things that are helpful to me. Let me know if you have questions. Let me know what's helpful to you. Again, I'm not going to get into semantics of what words are the correct words, because that is a personal choice for you, and it may change in your life. And I used to have a lot of words that were very triggering to me, and then I was like, they're just words. I do not need to waste my time and energy getting upset over words. Words are always going to mean something different to the person next to me than they are to me. Even if we think we agree, they're going to be different meanings. So, let me just see. Okay, some people have hi in Egypt. Okay. Hello in India. Everything Kid says, I know what you mean. My dad passed 11 years ago, and it's just something I believe I'll always feel. Yeah, and what's so fascinating? Hello in Texas. What's so fascinating about that is, if you look at science at all, if you get into quantum physics at all, which I love, there's this thing called quantum entanglement, which is that particles that have been, in proximity to each other have a resonance. They share that they will come into sync, we can say, or into phase is what the wave pattern. So when the wave patterns match, then we're resonating with somebody. If you ever feel like, oh, I resonate with that, or I feel you, or I vibe with that. And once that is established, that synchrony, that resonance, they'll always feel each other. It's amazing. You can have a particle on the other side of the universe, and this one, something happens to this one, and that one feels it too. And because we've also shown that every particle in us is a hologram of the entire whole, we're connected to every vibration. So, by the axiom that energy can neither be created nor destroyed, that energy of your father still exists. Not in the same form, sure, but still exists. So, something happened to me. Let me finish the thought, and then I'll share my experience and how this is helpful to me. So yeah, you're still connected. You're still going to feel the vibrations of those memories, of the sense memory of your father, of all kinds of things that are going to come up with that, and then all the thoughts that trigger it, And so to think, we wouldn't want just to never remember our loved ones, but it may make sense that there would be new thoughts, and there would be a complex emotional landscape that would occur that would continue on for the rest of our lives. And I think that's something very beautiful about love, that we can continue to feel connected in some way. So I'll share a personal story for me. When my brother was 22, my brother Adam was 22 when he passed on. And I agree with using the word death, like that death can be really important, and we don't want to be like, oh, wishy-washy about it, that's fine if that's important to you. For me, death sounds like an end, and I guess it's the end of his body, but it's not the end of my experience of him. So when I think of him being in another realm, that's why I like the word passed on, but whatever works for you. So it was totally sudden. He was incredibly healthy and wonderful and doing his life's work, really. And it was very, very sudden. He was epileptic as a kid, and it's something that a lot of people grow out of, and we thought he'd grown out of it. But apparently he hadn't, because what we think happened is that he had a seizure in a hot tub alone and drowned. And we don't really know, because by the time they found the body, it had been a couple of days, and so they couldn't, all they knew was that it wasn't a heart attack, and his clothes were folded neatly at the side, so we figured it wasn't, nobody was worried that somebody had done something to him. So it was just like unthinkable that my 22-year-old amazing brother, who was like gonna save the planet, died. And when we came home on a normal day, and the coroner was there, and it was like, what? And they were saying they weren't even sure it was him at first, and it took at least a day for them to get the dental records, and I think my parents had to like go to San Francisco and look at the dental records or something. It was really intense process. And so even that day, they were pretty sure. I mean, they were pretty sure it was him, or they wouldn't have come to us. But we were really in denial, because he was the kind of guy who would just like show up on your doorstep, having taken 18 buses and a train and hiked there over the mountains for 3 days or something, and be like, hey guys, how's it going? So I kept expecting that to happen. But even that night, I remember when my family finally was trying to just sleep, and we were just, after sobbing together and being so confused and angry and hurt, and I started writing to him, because we had written letters to each other. He was 4.5 years older than me, so we wrote letters to each other for a lot of the time, from when he was in high school through to when he was like going around the country. And so I just wrote him a letter, and I listened to James Taylor, which was like he sounds like my dad to me, and I just listened to it. I knew I needed to hear it, and I just like sobbed and wrote to him. And I didn't care if he would ever get it. I didn't care if I was writing to the him in me or my memory. I didn't care if there are ghosts. I didn't care if there are no ghosts. I didn't care what it meant logically. I needed to connect to my brother, and I just did this thing, and that helped me in that moment. And it was hard, but I knew I needed to do it. And then I just kept writing him letters whenever I felt like writing him letters, and I had him in a box, so at least I could put them somewhere. And I always felt that I was still connected to him in some way, but my relationship to all of that has really shifted over the years. And one of the pivotal moments that I will share, in case it's helpful to you, because it's something I've shared with a lot of people who, like, if I felt that they needed to hear it. When I lived in Wellington, New Zealand, I love that accent. It's excellent. Love to everyone in New Zealand. When I lived in Wellington, I lived very close to, I lived on Mount Victoria, which is like right out my door, where all these incredible trails, and I used to go running up there. And one morning, I was running, and this huge, beautiful old-growth tree had fallen over the path, and somebody had cut, just like a log straight. It was huge, a log straight across where it had crossed the path, and then turned it over to the side and cut out a quarter of it, so it made this enormous wooden bench, like this solid, just like a pie of a bench. And the smell of the tree was so powerful and so fresh. It just like knocked me over, and I got this feeling because Adam worked with wood. He was learning natural building practices for sustainable building. He kind of always smelled like nature. He usually came in with like leaves and scratches, having just gone out to pick berries or like, make something or gone foraging or and I just was so hit with that smell. I burst into tears, and I looked over and I saw this bench, and I just was like, I'm sitting down on this bench. I sat down, and tears were streaming down my face. And I felt there was something about like that smell was so tangible, and you know how powerful smell is. It was so tangible that I just felt like I could feel Adam next to me on the bench, and I didn't care what that meant. I didn't care if it was true or just in my imagination or his spirit I didn't care. I felt him there, and I had to hold his hand. I missed my brother. I wanted to hold his hand, and I was like, I'm going to hold his hand. I'm going to lean on his shoulder. And I felt that I was holding my brother's hand and leaning on my brother's shoulder. And that was what I needed. And I breathed into it, and I talked to him. And I didn't care what it meant, or if I was crazy, or what people would think. Because all that mattered was that I needed to feel my brother, and I can. We have this amazing ability to believe and to be what we need. And the universe is right there to support us in it. And I recognize that moment as the universe giving me an experience of Adam that I didn't even know I needed, but I totally did. And it was years later. Like 2 years later. And from then on, something totally shifted for me. And I would talk to him when I needed to. Be in the car. If I felt like I needed some advice from my brother, I'd talk to him. Or I'd write to him, and he'd write back. And again, I still don't need to have logical proof of what that is that I'm communicating with. All of this is energy. I am energy. And I have my beliefs about where he is and the work that he's doing from the realm that he's in. But it doesn't even matter if you believe that or if anybody else believes that. I have a way of connecting with my brother, of talking with and about my brother in a way that keeps the flow going as circumstances change and as emotions come up to me. Because emotions are communicating. Somebody said emotions are useless. That might be your experience. In my experience, they're very powerful communicators about things that I need to pay attention to. Experiences that I need to have. And if I don't pay attention to them, I am dramatically limiting my experience as a human and as a spirit in this realm. And I am not here to be limited in my experience. I am here to live to my fullest. If you prefer to have a limited, seemingly safer experience, by all means, ignore your emotions. It will work until it doesn't work and there's some kind of breakdown, in which case you will have to pay attention to them. Maybe it's a health thing, or maybe it's some kind of circumstance. But communication is going to keep happening from within. And so for me, I use as many different ways of recognizing that communication as possible. I meditate. I pay attention to the emotions. I notice if I'm tight and stiff. I notice if I'm not responding very well to my environment. Sometimes it takes me a moment, but eventually I'll go, oh, I'm sorry, honey. I was in a reactive state there, and I was not behaving in my best way. Let me see what's going on, because there might be a new, greater understanding that I'm about to come to right now that's being communicated to me from within. So these are things that are helpful to me. I know this has run on a little long. Oh, absolutely. I'm so glad it's helpful. Yay. Oh, thank you. I love that. And what I love is Norul says, your brother is now with God, alive and well. And if that is your understanding, that is so beautiful. Beautiful. There's so many. We exist in soul energy form. Our body die, our energy doesn't. I love that too. It's beautiful. You know, it's so funny. I used to it's an absence I'll always feel, but it's not something I'll always be sad about. Sometimes a flash of a memory that can make me laugh or even a tad annoyed. I love it. I love it. That's all beautiful. Oh, your eyes are as gray as clouds that are to rain and create multiple rainbows. I love it. I love it. I often feel that when I have what I call laugh tears, like when I'm crying and laughing at the same time, or just smiling, it feels like a rainbow. It feels like the sun shining through the tears. I love that. Thank you for sharing your insights. Feel free to put in the comments things that are helpful to you, and we can continue sharing and helping each other, because I'm sure this will be a video that will resonate with people. Hello from St. Petersburg, Russia. I love your Russian accent. Thank you. Could I say again something with Russian accent for you? Дорога длинною, да ночкой лунною, да с песней той, что вдаль летит свинья. I learned that a couple years ago, several. I hope it's at least partially correct. I say it with love. Yeah, and for Amir doesn't believe there is such a thing as a soul. And if that is a belief that brings joy and understanding and peace to your heart, then blessings. That doesn't have to be a word that works for you. Yeah. Thank you all. I love you so, so much, and I'm so glad we can connect. David, I knew you were super intelligent, but you are also spiritually and emotionally intelligent. Oh, you were awesome. Thanks for your story. That was powerful. Thank you. It's so fascinating. You know, sharing that was like, gosh, maybe this is too personal to share. You know, this is a private memory. And then no. When I asked this morning how I could best be of service, I was initially thinking of doing a different YouTube video today. But the reason why, you probably noticed, I haven't been announcing them too far in advance lately, because on the day, I might get an indication in meditation that there's something totally different that is meant to come through today. And so what I did in preparation was to feel into that, to ask for a title, and to meditate before, and to just offer what comes through. So thank you for showing up. I'm so grateful to connect with you. I love you. Love to you and your loved ones. We are connected. I'll see you soon.